Now, the prosecution has also talked about some duct tape and some fingerprints. I want to demonstrate for you right quick what happens when I go to pick up a roll of duct tape. Every one of my fingers touches it, including my middle one, the right one. But this investigator didn't say that there was a roll of duct tape that he found. He found a piece. And what happens when you tear a piece of duct tape off? Two fingers touch it. And if I'm going to bind somebody with it, put it over their mouth, I'm going to do it like this. My middle finger doesn't touch. Now, the criminologist also said there were other fingerprints that were on this tape. It could have been anybody. But he just said they weren't comparable at the time.
Objection, the criminologist was never mentioned in any testimony.
Your Honor, it's admitted into discovery. It's stipulated testimony.
It wasn't part of the trial.
It's stipulated. So, we're going to get back to the tape, though. The prosecution also tries to lay a foundation that this crime was committed because Robert Duffy had motive. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, this foundation sinks about as quick as the sand that's laid on. Robert Duffy didn't have any motive here. They're saying he was a desperate man. What kind of desperate man has a job, has family and friends that are supporting him? Robert Duffy wasn't a desperate man. He was far from it. This was a man who was about to manage his own store. He was about to get out of South Armadillo. He was going to move to the east side of town where things were good and live the good life. Not a desperate man. The real motive here is revenge. Dusty Stockard knew that his ex-girlfriend, Krista Chacon, was dating another guy. And when he saw Robert Duffy walk out with her, he thought, there's my guy. I've got somebody dependent on now. Ladies and gentlemen, robbery was an afterthought in this case. When he killed those two girls, when Dusty Stockard killed those two girls, he saw that money. He said, oh, I got a getaway plan. And Dusty Stockard hasn't been found for this trial. He hasn't been found for investigation. Now, they also have a witness in this case, a Chris Jensen, who they think is a pretty strong witness. Well, Chris Jensen's already admitted he doesn't like Robert. He almost had to evict Robert, and he doesn't like evicting people. He's got a reason to see Robert go to jail. That's so he won't have to go back and live in his house. Now, we also have testimony from Stacy Shepard that puts Chris Jensen at the scene of the crime on the night the murder was committed. Now, and Chris Jensen's also already admitted that he's been convicted of attempted extortion, a crime whose main element is truthfulness. And he's the main witness for the prosecution. He can't be trusted. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I sit down, I'm going to tell you that the state is going to be able to get up and rebut any arguments that I just gave you. And I know that the evidence has been presented here, and I know that you think that I would have something to say about whatever they're going to put to you. They're going to get up here and they're going to talk to you about laws. They're going to talk to you about robbery. They're going to talk to you about murder. But ladies and gentlemen, there's only one thing that you need to know to decide this case. And that's the burden the state has to overcome to convict Mr. Duffy. And that burden is beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the highest burden of anything in our justice system, is reasonable doubt. I'm going to tell you what reasonable doubt is. When you get up in the morning and you get in your car to go to work, and you think, coffee pot on? Or, dang, did I unplug the iron today? And you hit those brakes? That's reasonable doubt. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this case reeks of reasonable doubt. And when all you've got is reasonable doubt, there's only one verdict you can put on that board, and it's an NG. Robert Duffy is not guilty. Thank you.